and welcome to the 19th episode of the Coffin Corner Podcast. I'm your host, GoodNightPunk, and with me, as always, is my good friend, Richie. Richie, what's up?
Oh, not much, buddy. The season is almost done, crazily enough. December flew by.
It did. I was distracted because I see BMZR, our German fan, right?
Oh, nice.
Right,
What's up?
German football fan. Let's go. Hopefully, maybe we'll get to a German team one day. Maybe they'll expand the NFL out of the country at some point.
It's funny. I actually just saw today that the German player that was on Washington's practice squad, David Bada, was signed to their active roster for tomorrow's game. So he will be active, which is pretty cool.
Nice. Well, that'd be cool to see him get some play time in.
Yes, sir.
Nice. This is random, but this is going to the Cardinals. Did I see that David Blau is starting for the Cardinals tomorrow?
He is, yes, because Trace McSorley played that poorly in his one start that they'd rather go with Blau.
I was really hoping for a third rhyme there. Trace McSorley played so poorly that they'd rather go with Blau. Oh, damn it. So close.
Yeah.
So close to the third one.
I'm not that good at improv, so I couldn't think of one.
Nice.
But yeah, and DeAndre Hopkins is out tomorrow, so Blau, he's got his work cut out for him against the Falcons, I believe is who they play.
Well, speaking of DeAndre Hopkins, that leads right into top 5 fantasy disappointments of this year, and it's hilarious to me because neither of us put him on his list, and I didn't even think about him. But the fact of the matter is, he came back, barely played with Kyler, barely played at all, and barely did anything at all this season. So he deserves to be on either of our lists, I think.
I drafted him in one league. He had some pretty good games in there. Let me go check.
I think his first two with Kyler were good, and then after Kyler was gone, it was just somehow.
His first two, he scored 21 and 36, but then he still got 14, 20, 18, 20, 15, 13, and then last week 1.4. So I mean, for a guy that missed 6 weeks, he had a pretty good run in the middle of the season there. I'm okay with it.
Yeah,
the missing 6 weeks is a disappointment, but we knew that going into the draft. Yeah,
not really a 2022 disappointment. That was a summer disappointment.
Yeah, knowing that he was going to miss those games, that's like, okay, that's fine. I'll draft him later. But these guys that we're going to talk about, we expected more of, and got just a big steaming pile of nothing.
Yes, exactly. So that leads us into this list. Let's see. I know last week we did the sleepers, or people we didn't want to draft, but we ended up drafting in fantasy, and we went back and saw how they did this year, which led us to want to kind of talk about just fantasy disappointments in general. So my first one is Chase Edmonds leaving the Cardinals, going to become the featured back in Miami, and somehow not even being on Miami anymore and not doing anything this season. So
yeah, that one, man, he had a lot of opportunity in Miami. They signed, I think, Raheem Mostert too at the start of the season, so like they had some running backs, but watching him on the Cardinals, you thought, oh, this guy is pretty talented, but just could never get anything going in Miami, and then goes to Denver, and they're still playing Latavius Murray over him. So right. I don't know what Chase Edmonds' problem is.
and somehow Miami's starting Jeff Wilson at this point, of all Myles Gaskin, Mostert. It's just super disappointing. You got beat out by a guy from the 49ers that wasn't named Raheem Mostert there to start the year.
A different guy from the 49ers.
Yes, exactly.
My number 5 is Aaron Rodgers, because when it comes to quarterbacks in fantasy, I do like to wait a little bit to draft him. I don't like taking one in the third or fourth round, even though I guess I probably should at this point because I waited and took Rodgers because he's been the MVP the last 2 years. And yeah, he lost Devontae Adams, but hey, come on, it's Aaron Rodgers. And yeah, he's been a massive disappointment just all around. Which, if your quarterback's not performing in fantasy, you're dead.
If the guy that's supposed to get 25 to 30 points a game is getting 10, your team's in trouble.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I took him, and he was my quarterback in I think at least 2 leagues, maybe even 3. So that one hurt. I mean, I could have honestly put so many people on this list because I had so many bad picks in fantasy this year. I made the playoffs in 2 leagues, one playoff game, and I'm in 11 leagues. So when I say 2 leagues, like that's very low.
Yeah, very small percentage there in the teens.
Yes. In the teens, yes, somewhere in the teen percentages.
Well, we'll talk about my number 1 and get to why this is an amazing feat. Actually, my number 3's in here too, so the whole thing's kind of weird and washed. But I am in 3 out of 4 championship games of my league, so
that is pretty awesome.
Considering some of the names you're about to hear on these lists, you would be surprised after your first one there. But we'll get there. For now, I want to talk about Cam Akers of the Rams, who was coming off an injury, right? Everyone thought he was supposed to be like the number 1 back for the Rams, for the Super Bowl champions, going to be awesome. And then he could pretty much played his way out of starting before Darrell Henderson. So that was an odd start. He's come on strong here at the end, but that was after a patch of 7 weeks where they were trying to trade him. So just super disappointing Cam Akers season. I don't even know if he'll be a Ram next year.
It's been a really weird time to watch Cam Akers this year because, in the playoffs, earlier this year, he played well after his injury, and everyone's like, "Oh man, he's primed to have a big season." And then, he fumbles in week 1, and then gets benched for Darrell Henderson, and then they have rookies like Kyron Williams and I don't remember the other guy's name that they're just playing over him. And then all of a sudden they release Darrell Henderson and go back to Cam Akers and he starts playing well. It's like he just woke up, I guess. It was so weird. But yeah, that's a tough one because he was a pretty high running back. He probably was a 3rd or 4th round pick.
Yeah, it's a lot like J.K. Dobbins, right? Like a lot of people you were going to be able to get Cam or J.K. in the 5th, 6th, 7th round.
Yeah, I should have put J.K. Dobbins on my list because I have him in 2 leagues. So.
Yeah, exactly. So, who's your 4th then?
So my number 4, Darnell Mooney, and this mostly disappointing the fact that I drafted him in the first place, but I did take him in 2 leagues. I believe in those leagues he was probably my first receiver even because I always go running back heavy to start, and just a huge disappointment. I mean, even when Justin Fields was having his stretch of good games, Mooney either wasn't doing anything or wasn't even on the field. And he's already out for the rest of the year. He's been out the last couple of weeks. Just an all-around really disappointing season for that guy. And now at this point, it feels like he's not even the Bears' number 1 receiver with Chase Claypool on the team and whoever they end up signing or drafting next year. He went from being a potential breakout receiver this year to a 3rd option on his own team next year.
Well, it's like everyone was ranking him on the same level as Amon-Ra, basically, to start the season.
To start the year, yeah.
And then you look at the difference between those two. So I almost had the other name you mentioned there on my list, and that was Chase Claypool, because when he started the season, he was between him and Deontay Johnson, right? Those were the 2 big names on the Steelers. Yeah. And you're you didn't really know what you were getting from Mitch Trubisky. But, I expected more out of a receiver that's that good, and he did nothing there. And then he went to the Bears, where the Bears can't throw the ball to receivers. So it was even worse. And so, yeah. I almost put Chase Claypool on his. Actually, my number 5 was Chase Edmonds, and the only reason it became Chase Edmonds because it was Chase Claypool written in number 5, and then I just erased Claypool and put Edmonds there.
Could have just put the Chases.
Yeah, people named Chase have been a disappointment. So, in one of the leagues I'm in the championship, this is the one. This is a whole story of a season right here, because Matthew Stafford, disappointing when he wasn't injured, disappointing that he got injured, disappointing to hear that he might retire. Glad he got his championship, but just tanked my season so hard in our dynasty league, because my backup quarterback to Matthew Stafford was Trey Lance, then it was Jimmy Garoppolo. And since he's gone down, I've played Mike White, Gardner Minshew, Desmond Ridder. Like, Matthew Stafford pretty much tanked an entire season for me somehow, despite my bad quarterback play. Not bad quarterback play. What you would think is bad quarterback play, I made the championship. I just picked people on the right weeks, like Mike White when he scores 35 points, or Gardner Minshew last week scoring 38 points. Just gotten lucky. So, but yeah. Matthew Stafford being hurt pretty much leaves my dynasty team in the worst spot possible for next season, because I don't even know if Trey Lance will be the starter next year if Brock Purdy can keep winning. And that leaves me with no quarterbacks going on that team next year. Except maybe Mike White if he wins the champion, or if he wins that spot.
I think if I remember correctly, in last week's Broncos game, the Rams-Broncos, they said that Matthew Stafford announced he was not retiring. Like, he told everybody, like, oh, I'm coming back next year. So he should be back next year unless something changes.
That'll work.
And then Jimmy Garoppolo, if you kept Garoppolo, he'll end up starting somewhere next year. So you'll have options. And Trey Lance, I think Trey Lance will still get to start the season next season because of everything they invested in him.
Right.
But he may have a short leash if Brock Purdy does lead them on a deep playoff run. But yeah.
But I always have Desmond Ridder, so there's that.
Yeah, he may not be starting next season. My number 3 was Javonte Williams, and it's a different circumstance than everybody else because he got hurt. But I took Javonte Williams in the second round in just about every league I could because I really believed that guy was going to break out. And he started the year splitting time with Melvin Gordon and then tore his ACL. So
also played for the Broncos under Nathaniel Hackett.
Which wouldn't have been good if he had stayed healthy anyways. But yeah, so that one's not so much his fault. It's an injury that sucks. But you want to talk about disappointments? Like, literally, I probably had that guy in 4 or 5 leagues, and yeah, just got nothing out of him. Even when he started like the first 4 or 5 weeks before he got hurt, he was splitting carries, probably had 10, 12 points a game. Like, just Rick says so. He did break out. Yeah, good one. Yeah. So. That was he was almost my number 1 because that's probably the biggest disappointment, just because there's the what could have been aspect of getting hurt. But there are people that I was angrier at, so I kept them at 1 and 2.
That makes sense to me. Well, I didn't pick him in any leagues because I have never really thought that he was going to be anything. But I've never watched the Broncos either. Remember earlier in the season where we were like, what's a team that if they win or lose, you don't even think about? Well, the Broncos are another one that's on that list for me. So
I remember watching him run last season. He led the league in yards after contact too, or broken tackles, one of those two. Like he was a very vicious runner and just like really fun to watch. And like everything in the offseason they were talking about, like, oh yeah, he's primed to be like the next breakout running back. And Nathaniel Hackett, splits carries with 30 some odd old Melvin Gordon because he's a stupid coach who has been fired, thank God.
Yeah.
And then he gets hurt. So it was just like, yeah, just super heartbreaking.
Yep. I'm with you. Speaking of halfbacks, this one breaks my heart because another guy I have in the Dynasty League that tried to tank my season, and that's James Robinson, who started off the year for the Swagwars doing really well. And then Etienne decided he wanted to do really well. And then the Jags were like, well, let's just end this clogged backfield and trade James Robinson to the Jets, who just lost Breece Hall. Which sounds like the perfect situation for James Robinson, except James Robinson did not play and has not played, despite being healthy, for the Jets at all, in favor of Michael Carter, Donovan. Is it Donovan Knight? Is that his name? Something.
Zonovan Knight.
Zonovan Knight. There you go. Yeah.
Yes.
So just, it confuses me why they traded for the guy and then just let him go. Hopefully his contract's up at the end of the year and I can see him go somewhere else, so he'll still be fantasy relevant for me and I don't have to drop him outright. But we shall see. We shall see. Because it was a big question mark going into this season with his injury, but now it's even worse.
Yeah, it's a tough one. I remember when he got traded, and the thought was like, oh man, he is such a talented running back, and he's going to a team that needs a running back. But I don't know what the hell. They just don't like him in New York, I guess.
Which really sucks because in most of my championships, I've been having to sign free agent halfbacks to fill the spot for all these injured halfbacks. And 2 of the 3 championship teams, I have James Robinson. But I know if I play him, he's like the 4th string on the team, and he's not going to do anything. So it's like Zach Moss. Zach Moss has been the guy I've picked up in 2 of those leagues. So if I end up having to play them, at least I know that guy was getting 19 to 25 carries last 2 weeks. So we'll see what happens. But
yeah.
Who's your
Well,
two?
speaking of
halfbacks, let's go halfbacks.
Yeah. So Najee Harris. My first round pick in multiple leagues. I don't know what has been healthy. I don't even think he's missed a game, maybe one, but he just had nothing. He's getting the ball, not doing anything with it. Like, it's just what a ridiculous season after playing well last year in his rookie season, and they've got a rookie quarterback this year, so you think, oh, let's lean on the run game, take pressure off the quarterback. Just absolute disappointing, heartbreaking. You take a first-round pick, and if they get hurt, there's that factor of, oh, okay, they got hurt. There's nothing can be done about that. Mm-hmm. But when they just play poorly or they just don't do anything, that's worse because it's just it's every game I'm like he's getting carries. He's involved in the offense. He's just not doing anything.
Yeah, I'm looking at it. He's had single-digit carries in only one game. And in every game, the closest he got to 100 yards was 99 on the 13th of November. Yeah. And that is the best he's done as far as yards. And he had one game where he scored 2 of his 6 touchdowns on the season. So
in the first 8 weeks, he had 1 rushing touchdown.
Yeah, it's
from my first round. And that's why I started 0-8 in like most leagues, because my first round pick wasn't doing anything.
Yeah. Well, first and second, you got Javonte and Najee, and you're like, well, I'm not getting any points from the running back position.
Yep. And then my third round pick was J.K. Dobbins, and my 4th round pick is my number 1 that I'll get to. So yeah, there's a reason I had just the worst fantasy team season ever.
Yeah, that makes sense. Sticking my number 1, sticking to the bad quarterback play for my teams. Russell Wilson. I think Russell Wilson has to be the number 1 on every disappointing list that exists. Hyped to the moon with Nathaniel Hackett coming from Green Bay as a coordinator with Matt LaFleur. They got Russell Wilson. Look, we got freaking Javonte Williams, Cortland Sutton, Jerry Jeudy. We got Albert O. Almost all the names on that offense are forgettable. Sutton has had a decent season, but almost every single person on the Broncos that you thought was going to have a good season has not. And it all boils down to how badly Russell Wilson has played. I mean, when the running joke for an entire season is whether Russell Wilson will be able to throw more touchdowns than he has bathrooms in his house. And that joke keeps going almost the entire season. That's just absolutely terrible quarterback play from a guy that's won an MVP and won a Super Bowl. So very, very confusing. He was the quarterback on two of my three teams. Two of my four teams. Then Matthew Stafford was another, and then the other one, which wasn't not half as bad as Russell Wilson as far as disappointing, but he got switched out with Jared Goff, and you know how much I hate Jared Goff. That is Jared Goff and Tom Brady were the other team. So, yeah. And speaking of another disappointment, Tom Brady. But like I said, not half as bad as Russell Wilson. So, yeah.
No, yeah. I mean, you factor in everything the Broncos gave up to get him and then paid him a bunch of money and the, Broncos country, let's ride. Like all that stuff. Like what a unbelievably disappointing season just for Russell Wilson. I mean, almost completely has changed how people view him as a quarterback because now it becomes more about, it was Pete Carroll's system more than it was about Russell Wilson, which is just, it's insane. Well, my number one, I've talked about him. Yeah. Kyle Pitts. Just, not only is the tight end position already hard enough to draft, but when you draft a tight end in the 4th round and they give you, I pulled it up because I was actually curious. 4, 14. All right, respectable. 4, 11, 4. What is 4? Why is that his favorite thing ever? 19. And I remember that game because everyone's like, oh, they finally figured out how to get the ball to Kyle Pitts. Nope. 5, 7 out for the year, week 12. I mean, that's just so frustrating. Not only those are points. Those are his
points. Okay, I'm like,
points.
Was he talking about yards? Because that's terrible. No. Receptions? I'm like, he had a 19 reception game. What? Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, it's just taking a tight end that early is risky, anyways.
Mm-hmm.
So that hurts. And then the hype, the breakout potential, just so frustrating. Like I'm mad at Najee Harris because he was my first round pick, but he stayed healthy the entire season. Kyle Pitts, not only did he underperform, and then he missed half the year. So like it's just so unbelievably frustrating. And again, Javonte Williams has been, as a 2nd round pick, hurt me more. But he got hurt. That's not, that sucks. And tearing his ACL, like Kyle Pitts was doing nothing and then got hurt. Like at least Javonte Williams was doing something before he got hurt. He wasn't doing great, but he was doing something. 4 points out of my tight end. I could have drafted Trey McBride and played him and gotten the exact same amount of points. Like, just sickening.
For sure.
But yeah, and I think both of us, as we were going through this list, we know that we could have had another 5 people on each of our lists. We could have had a top 10 fantasy disappointments this season. It has been a rough season fantasy-wise, which is why, congratulations to you being in 3 championships, man. That's to make it through this season and be in 3 championship games this weekend is pretty damn impressive.
I'll tell you what, this week's been a nightmare trying to figure out who is going to play and who isn't, because I'm teetering on the edge of this questionable guy might or might not play, and for me it's like, all right, well, if he plays, I might have a good chance at points. If he doesn't, I'm gonna be putting in this guy that might get 4 points. So I hate it.
Yeah, I know.
Super stressful.
It's every year it happens around fantasy championship because people start getting hurt at the end of the year. People start getting shut down if their teams are out of the playoffs. Mm-hmm. I saw somebody on Twitter that said, you change fantasy championships to week 16. It's like,
that ain't gonna change much. They're
well,
already
yeah,
not in week 18.
Oh, and then you've got more bye weeks during the playoffs. Like, I'm mad enough that we have bye weeks in week 14, which is the start of the playoffs. Like,
Yeah.
It's annoying enough, but and then it's like, well, if we push the championship earlier, then you're gonna have to start the playoffs earlier, so you have more bye weeks. Like it's just,
Hmm.
yeah, it is what it is. You just have to, hope for the best. And already this week, I saw, DeAndre Hopkins is out now for tomorrow. We got, guys like Jonathan Taylor have already been shut down. So it is rough. It is rough, but hopefully you've got a deep enough bench to help you through, and hopefully Dalton Schultz's 26 points on Thursday doesn't
Don't
kill you
sink
in the
me.
one league.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We shall see.
All right, well, let's move on to our Week 16 review. We missed last week's podcast. We're not gonna go back and review Week 15 because it's been 2 weeks now already. So we'll just
Enjoy your Christmas break.
Yeah, exactly. Christmas and me being sick. That's why we missed the podcast last week. So this is gonna be a pretty quick review because none of these games really stood out to me after when looking back at them. Bears lost to the Bills. I mean, that's like the sun came up in the morning or the sky was still blue. Like, what did you expect here? Panthers Lions. This one actually hurt because the Lions.
Oh, that was so bad. The worst
If
Christmas
they had won this
Eve
game,
ever.
I think they would have been the 7th seed right now. So
They would be. They wouldn't
Yeah.
be fighting for their playoff lives. The problem is, the first drive they gave up 2 rushes of over 30 yards, and I'm like, this is going to end badly. And throughout the entire game, I think they had 7 rushes of 30 plus yards to go with never being stopped rushing. So I don't know what happened. They had one of the best rushing defenses over the last 8 weeks, and then just decided they did not know how to tackle. Or who even was that? Chuba Hubbard and Donta Forward.
Hubbard, yeah.
That's who we couldn't stop. And then got blown out by the freaking Panthers who traded their best players away. I don't know, man. That was just
Those 2 running backs
complete
ran
disappointment.
for 290 yards against the Lions.
Mhm.
Like that's fucking insane.
And the fact that
290 yards.
the fact that's it is surprising to me because I just remember so many big plays, and that's all they wound up with. That game was hard. I almost turned it off. I was at my in-laws' house. I had my PlayStation right there, ready to play anything but watch football, and I almost turned it off. It was just that disappointing.
Yeah, that is a really rough. I mean, credit to Steve Wilkes. We've talked about how the Panthers are playing really well under him. But when in this game, really wanted the Lions to get that win because again, I mean, they would have knocked the Commanders out to be the number 7 seed, and frankly, they deserve it more than the Commanders do right now. I'm looking at Goff's stats from that game. Goff has been playing the best he's played since his Super Bowl run. That's awesome. But yeah, they needed to get the win. Luckily, the Lions have the Bears this week. That should be a walk in the park.
Well, I should have known on the first drive when we got to the inside the 10, and then Goff fumbled the ball for his first turnover in 6 games. I'm like, oh great, we can afford to not score. We can afford to not score after they just ran the ball down our throats to go up 7-0. So yeah, once they fumbled that ball and then they ran down our throats again to make it 14-0, I'm like, this is gonna be ugly. I don't like this. Please let me off this ride.
Chrissy, wake up.
I don't like this.
Saints Browns. The only thing I remember about this game is it was it felt like negative 28 because of the wind chill in that game. And there were fans there. I mean, Browns fans even credit to Browns fans for showing up for that game on Christmas Eve. I sure as hell wouldn't have been there. But the Saints get the win. They passed the ball 15 times because of how freaking cold it was. The Browns passed it 40 some odd times. I don't know what they were thinking. Give the ball to Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt. But yeah, Saints get the win. Seahawks Chiefs win. The Seahawks their playoff hopes are kind of dwindling. They're still in the running, but they're behind the Lions and the Commanders, and the Packers right behind them. So a lot of things need to fall their way for the Seahawks to sneak into the playoffs, which is crazy because a couple weeks ago they were the number 1 seed in that division. So
Yeah, they've fallen
definitely
off like bad.
they've had a very rough second half of the season.
Well, Geno Smith, like that story was awesome until it wasn't, and then it wasn't
Yeah.
like at all.
No one's talking about Geno Smith anymore.
I'm
Now it's all about Brock Purdy.
I really want to see his stats in the last. Let's see here. I'm going to the game log for Geno, and I mean, he actually is still doing well. In the last 5 games, he's gone for 328, 367, 264, 238, 215. He's had 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 touchdowns to 5 interceptions. So, I mean, he's not doing terrible. They lost the magic touch.
Yeah. Well, and it might be, it might be the defense too.
People figured him out.
Yeah.
Opponent's defense as well.
They've still got a chance to make the playoffs, but they definitely need a lot of help now. Giants Vikings. I call these are 2 playoff pretenders. The Vikings beat the Giants by like 3. I've said it for weeks. They're not that good of a team and will probably lose their first round matchup. And I believe the Giants are, not that good either and will probably lose theirs. Like the Giants tied the Commanders and then barely beat them and lost to the Vikings. Like they're still going to be the 6th seed, barring some ridiculous collapse. But the 6th seed, they'd be going against the 3rd seed, which would probably end up being Dallas. No, San Francisco. Don't see them winning that game.
If Justin Jefferson was not on the Vikings, they would be absolutely terrible.
Yes.
He is literally the one propping that entire team up. And if he was not there, Adam Thielen would not be that guy. And the Justin Jefferson getting, 100 to 200 yards a game with multiple touchdowns is what's kept them 12-3. And that's it. Like, I picked the Giants in this game, and I was almost right.
You were. It was a close game, but that's why neither team really to me stands out as anybody that's going to make a playoff run. The Giants are buoyed by having a great start to the year, so they're going to make the playoffs. But it's like the Seahawks. They've come back down to earth. Bengals Patriots. Not much to talk about here. Bengals are on a winning streak. Last year they did the same thing. They just started getting really hot in December come playoff time, and that led them all the way to the Super Bowl. I don't know if it's going to lead them there again, but Joe Burrow definitely looks like he is in playoff form.
Yeah,
Falcons, Ravens.
They look ridiculously good. The Bengals.
Yes.
Spoiler alert, I picked the Bengals over most teams right now the way they're playing.
Yeah, it's going to be, it's funny. The AFC has some really good playoff teams. The Bills, the Chiefs, the Bengals. I'm happy the Chargers are in it. The Jaguars right now. Like there's some teams that I'm like, oh yeah, I could see them making runs. And then I look at the NFC and I'm like, I don't see the Giants, the Vikings, the Commanders right now. Like none of those teams are teams that I think can pull off any great.
The difference is
runs.
The difference is the AFC has teams that are surging right now, and everyone in the playoff hunt for the NFC is falling apart. So it's just hard to see anything from the NFC being the winner of the Super Bowl, considering how strong all the AFC teams look. So, and I just looked, the Bengals are on a 7-game win streak. That's insane.
That is fantastic.
So,
excuse me. Falcons Ravens. This is a boring ass game. Desmond Ridder, he was all right in his first start. Tyler Huntley filling in for Lamar Jackson gets the win. I believe it got the Ravens into the playoffs as well. I believe they've locked up playoff spots. So, Lamar should be back by then. Good for them.
I hope so, because that would be a boring game with Huntley starting.
Yeah, seriously. Texans, Titans. Texans get the win over the Titans, who we've been saying for weeks are a bad team in a worse division.
Yeah.
But now the Jaguars have leapfrogged them for first place in the AFC South. And next week's game, Jaguars Titans, is for the division. Doesn't matter what the Jaguars do this week, the Titans can still win the division if they beat them next week. That's really cool. I'm really excited for the Jaguars, or the Swagwires, we should say.
I would rather watch the Swagwires in the playoffs than the Titans. Sorry, Titans fans.
Not only that, but the Titans have already shut down Ryan Tannehill, and they're going with Josh Dobbs or Malik Willis. They went with Josh Dobbs on Thursday.
Dobbs?
Yeah. I don't know.
You have Malik Willis and you go with Josh Dobbs?
I think that's just how bad Malik Willis is. It's like Trace McSorley. Like, we saw enough. Your one game was enough. Now we're going to pick somebody up and just start them off the street.
Josh Rosen.
Yeah.
Josh Rosen. I'm surprised he's not starting for the Cardinals this week.
Yeah,
Can you imagine they bring back Josh Rosen to start for the Cardinals?
They should.
They should.
Point,
that would actually make people watch them.
Yes. If you're starting David Blau, however it's said.
Blah is an accurate description.
David Meh.
Yes.
I would absolutely be more excited if they were like, we re-signed Josh Rosen just for the hell of it. I would be like, I'm down. Let's watch this game.
I'm in for that. Let's do it.
Yeah. But yeah, Texans, good for the Texans getting the win. Titans don't belong in the playoffs, and I'm glad that I don't think they're going to beat the Jaguars next week, so they shouldn't be in the playoffs. Commanders 49ers, back to Wentz. Yep, I've been waiting for this moment because Ron Rivera has been saying, like, basically the Taylor Heineke has a very short leash, and he lost to the Giants Sunday night 2 weeks ago. Then they play the 49ers, which, to be fair, is a team no one thought they were going to beat. But they went back to Wentz in the fourth quarter anyways. And Wentz actually, in his one drive, played very well. 12 of 16 for 120 yards and a touchdown. Can he do it for a full game against the Browns on Sunday? I don't know. It's funny. At this point, they're going to give up a third-round pick in the trade with the Colts. There's no way they can give up a second-round pick. Wentz would have had to have played 70% of the snaps. It's too late in the year. So, fine. Start Wentz the last 2 weeks. But now the fear, for me, is that Wentz is going to play well enough for them to decide to re-sign him in the offseason and pay him stupid money that he doesn't deserve.
Kyler Murray money.
Yeah, well, not that. but I mean, like right now, I think he's making like $29 million this year. So like, okay, pay him 25. No, that's probably too much. 20 next year. I don't know. Whatever it ends up being, it's going to be too much because he'll then go into next year and fall flat on his face. And all of a sudden, it's like, well, we just re-signed this guy for 3 years or whatever. Like, it's just the best option for the Commanders at this point is that Wentz goes out there tomorrow and shits the bed. They lose and get eliminated from the playoffs. And then in week 18, you just start Sam Howell, see what you have in him. And then we go to the offseason knowing we need an entirely new quarterback who is not on this roster. Because Heineke's a free agent, Wentz is a free agent. I don't want either one of them back. Because every time Heineke's on the team, everyone's going to be like, well, start Heineke. We win with him. We win with him. We don't win because of him. I'd like to find a quarterback that when they're on the field with the ball, I'm not biting my nails thinking, what the fuck's this guy going to do now?
That when the defense has a bad game, you're not, don't know you're going to lose because the quarterback can still win it for you.
Or if we need to drive down and get into field goal range, I can think, okay, yeah, I have faith that this guy can do it. Not, like, he's going to throw a pick. We better just run the ball. It's yeah. And I'm not saying, they need to trade up and get somebody in the first round. But there's options. Jimmy Garoppolo, Baker Mayfield. Like, there's going to be free agency options. Derek Carr is going to be available by trade. Like, just do something different. I don't... Wentz isn't the guy... He didn't suddenly become a good quarterback after he broke his finger. Like he had his year in 2017. Ever since then, he was kind of eh. And then he played for us in the beginning of the season, was very meh. Like he's not suddenly gonna have woken up and been like, oh yeah, it's 2017 me again. It's 5 years ago, and I'm gonna go out there and be an MVP candidate. Like that's not gonna happen. But we'll see. It's gonna be a fun off season, man. That's all I know. It's gonna be a fun off season. But yeah, Commanders lost. Whoop de doo. Eagles, Cowboys. The Cowboys get the win, but I'm actually impressed with how Gardner Minshew played in relief of Jalen Hurts. You mentioned it. You started him in fantasy. He played very well. If he could have pulled off the upset, that would have been pretty damn heroic. But the fact that he played as well as he did in relief, good for them.
In Dallas.
Yeah, in Dallas in a hostile environment.
Yeah.
But yeah, Dallas gets the win. There's still 2 games, I think, or a game and a half behind Philly for the division. I don't think they're going to get there. Philly's not going to lose the next 2 games. Raiders and Steelers. I just talked about it. Derek Carr is going to be available by trade because he has been benched. Crazy to me that they would trade for Devontae Adams, knowing that he is,
Derek Carr's best friend.
Carr. Yes.
And then
now
bench
they're going
Derek
to
Carr?
get rid of Derek Carr in the offseason. So
Good
is
luck.
Devontae Adams also going to be gone in the offseason? I don't know. It's like Josh McDaniels, man. Just he knows what he's doing.
Well, who are they starting? Some weird named guy? I don't remember.
Oh, gosh. Yeah, I can't remember. Jared Stidham.
Yes, okay.
He started for the Patriots a couple years ago when Brady was suspended and then Garoppolo got hurt. Stidham, I believe it was Stidham, started.
Yeah, I thought this guy was old. I'm like, what do you expect out of this person? We already know who they are and what they are.
Yeah, but Josh McDaniels coached him in New England, so he's all about the guy, I guess.
Yeah, that worked really well for Brian Hoyer.
Yeah, they're just.
I coached Hoyer in New England. Hoyer will be amazing. No, not everyone is Tom Brady. Sorry, just because he was a backup to a great player doesn't mean he's going to be a great player.
But that's what everybody wants to believe. He was near Brady in the locker room, so he's just as good.
He brushed his arm against him one time, and
the magic. Steelers got the win. Packers, Dolphins. This game was disappointing, because I wanted Green Bay to lose so everyone would stop talking about their playoff chances, but also because Tua Tagovailoa got another concussion that nobody realized during the game. He goes on to throw 3 interceptions in the fourth quarter, and everybody's making fun of him, and it's like, oh, it's because he's concussed.
Oh, because the man who's been out multiple games this season for nasty hits is concussed again, and the team is so inept that they leave him on the field.
Yep. And then the NFL came out today and said, oh, the Dolphins aren't going to get in trouble because he didn't show any symptoms of being concussed, so how could they have known? It's like, you watch the guy in the fourth quarter and think, what the hell happened to him? Yeah,
and you said this. First off, the man got hit and could barely walk, was taken off the field, and you brought him back in the second half of the first game he got hit.
Yep.
Whatever you say past that point, I don't believe you. Oh, he didn't show any signs. Okay. Totally believe you, as if you wouldn't just throw him out on the field anyway, because you've already done that, and then you did it again a week later with a short time between games, 4 days later, and he got another concussion. But we're not supposed to think you don't know what the hell you're talking about. Get out of here. Oh, he didn't show any signs.
Whoever's Miami's neurologist doctor has no idea what a concussion looks like.
I feel so bad for Tua because if you're a competitive person, you want to play, and he might have even known he was concussed. But being competitive, most of those guys just want to be on the field. So he's not pulling himself out of the game. That's what the medical people are for. And if they're not doing their job, they're putting him in danger.
Yeah.
I don't know. Just trying.
Exactly. It's just it's a whole mess, and it's upsetting to me that the Dolphins apparently are just going to keep getting away with this because it can lead to long-term health
Don't,
issues.
don't be surprised. Don't be surprised if you have another Andrew Luck here, and he just says, "I'm not going to do this anymore."
Yeah, I'm going to stop getting my head bounced off the turf like a damn basketball.
And then them pretending I was fine and not taking any ownership of their stupidity.
Broncos, Rams. Rams destroyed the Broncos, and it got Nathaniel Hackett fired. So, Merry Christmas. Thank you, LA, for that.
I can't be happy about that.
You can't be happy?
I cannot. The Rams continue to win, and their pick continues to get worse. So, screw that. Stop winning. You're not supposed to be doing that. Keep losing. That is what you're supposed to be doing.
Well, I will be happy because it got Nathaniel Hackett fired, and it also is just Baker Mayfield once again showing why he is a good quarterback, despite what everybody in Cleveland wanted to say about him. I love that guy's personality and his passion and what he does on the field. It's like if Taylor Heineke could actually throw the damn ball.
Maybe he'll be in a commander next year.
I'd be more than happy to have him as a commander next year. I don't know. I don't know what the hell they're going to do, frankly. I never thought for a second we would have traded for Carson Wentz, and that happened. So, I don't know.
Yeah.
But, yeah, it's going to be fun to see where he does end up, though.
Matt
Bucks,
Ryan.
Cardinals.
You're just going to keep taking the Colts handovers.
Yeah.
Matt Ryan will be the quarterback.
And we'll trade another fucking second-round pick for him, probably. Bucks and Cardinals, man, this one hurt. Trace McSorley got the start because Kyler and Colt were both hurt. Didn't play great, but the defense did. And, I mean, they were really doing well against Tom Brady for the first 3.5 quarters, 10-point lead in the fourth quarter. And then, sure enough, Tom Brady leads them to tie the game, force overtime, and kick a field goal to win it in overtime because he's Tom Brady, and that's what he does. Just more heartbreak for the Cardinals.
But with the Rams winning and the Texans winning and a lot of the bad teams winning, it helped their draft pick. So
it did help their draft pick. Actually, I'm going to pull up right now and see. They are right now 4th, which is pretty awesome. Because there's some good defenders at the top of the draft, and they desperately need someone to replace J.J. Watt now that he's retiring. So we shall see how that goes.
Yep. Oh,
right,
by the way, the Rams winning pushed them down to the 7th pick, so gotta freaking love that. 4 to 7.
I would get comfortable with Jared Goff as your quarterback next year because I don't think the Lions are going to be drafting one in the first round anymore.
If they do, it'll probably be the end of the first round.
Yeah.
With their other pick.
All right. So that was week 16. Now let's go on to week 17, Thursday night foreplay. You unfortunately did not get to place one because you were in California.
I lost my foreplay because California still doesn't allow sports betting for some reason.
I did not realize that either.
I went to do sports betting on New Year's or Christmas Eve, and it would not let me. It said location not verified. You are not allowed to bet here. And I'm like, what? Kind of.
Yeah, that's crazy. I for some reason I thought it was like national at this point.
Well, that's the thing about California, right? It's like, hey, we'll legalize weed, but we don't sports betting. That's just not allowed.
Yeah, weed's legal, but you can't smoke menthol cigarettes anymore.
Yeah, what's happening here?
Oh man. All right. So, well, you didn't get to do one. I did do a Thursday night foreplay, and for the second week in a row, well, not the second week, but the second foreplay in a row, I won. I got all 4 of mine. Ezekiel Elliott anytime touchdown. Dak Prescott over 9.5 rushing yards. He only got 11, so he barely made it. Cowboys by 9.5 and under 47.5 points. So yeah, that's the last
playing?
2 foreplays I've done. Boom.
Who did they play again?
Titans.
Oh yeah, right. Great pick.
With Josh Dobbs at quarterback.
Yeah. that was good job. No Titans picks on there. Huh. Actually, there's a Titans pick under 47.
Yeah,
pick them to not score a lot of points.
I honestly the Cowboys, I think the line was 13.5, and they did get 14, but I was a little nervous for a while because they were up by like 10. I'm like, all right, this works, but if Tennessee kicks a field goal, I'm gonna lose my foreplay. But then Dallas got 10 points in the fourth quarter, and it's good to go. So
All right,
I'll take it. Now,
looking at this week 17 preview, the last 2 weeks have not been kind to me.
Yes, last we left the podcast, you were ahead by 3 in the picks, and now I am ahead by 1.
You're ahead by 1, and I have 3 more losses than you. Good old bonus, just messing with these numbers. Week 15, you went 13-3, very nice. I went 10-6, still not bad.
We had 3 differences that week, and I got all of them. Like that's how quickly it can swing, though.
Yeah, exactly. And then last week we only had 1 difference, and you got that one, so that put you the 1 game ahead.
Yep.
And the 3 difference is what gave me the 3 extra losses on you, because I was up ahead in losses, I believe, last time. I had less losses than you.
Yeah, you did. Because you've gotten more bonuses than I have. So you have more losses, but you don't have as many less wins because you've gotten more of your bonuses right.
Thank God for that.
Very frustrating.
At least it's close. It wasn't looking like it was going to be close towards the beginning of the year. Brought it back, was winning for a while. I'm like the Lions. I'll make it close, and then I'll just blow it at the end.
You'll give hope, but then still lose.
just snatch it away. Take it right from as the saying goes, snatch defeat from the jaws of victory.
Yes, exactly.
All right, let's start off with the first game of the week. That is the Cardinals at the Falcons. Falcons are favored by 6. The Falcons suck, so them to be favored by 6 shows you how much faith they have in David Bleh on the Cardinals.
Yes.
So, I don't know how much faith do you have in David Bleh?
David Bleh without DeAndre Hopkins, I had 0 faith. Now I have negative faith. So I'm definitely going with the Falcons.
I've watched David Bleh as a Lions fan start games, and you might as well look into a fan because that's more entertaining. So
just watch a fan spin around.
Just watch a fan spin.
Well, it sounds like we're both going with the Falcons.
There is no way I am picking Mr. Bleh. So Bears at Lions. I think the Lions will win, simply for the fact that the Lions ran all over the Bears last time they played. Both Swift and Jamal are healthy this game, and we have all of our receivers back. So the literal only thing you have to worry about is Justin Fields running all over the Lions again, especially after last week. So
yeah.
I'm going to take the Lions reluctantly, but I don't think it's going to be as far apart as it seems.
Yeah, the line is 6, which I feel is pretty high. But I'm going to take the Lions, obviously. I as much as a Commanders fan, for us to make the playoffs this week, we need the Lions, Seahawks, and Packers to all lose. If all 3 of those teams lose and we beat the Browns, we actually lock up the 7th seed a week early.
Mm-hmm.
Is that going to happen? Hell no, it's not going to happen. The Bears aren't going to beat the Lions. The Bears have no offense besides Justin Fields' legs. So I'm going to go with the Lions, and I'm actually going to make this my bonus. I'm using it early.
Wow.
That's how much faith I have in the Lions to beat Chicago at home.
That literally gives me a reason to be mad at you if they lose. So much confidence.
That's how confident I am. Let's do it. Let's go.
All right. Well, we'll see.
I can't have confidence in my own team. I can have confidence in your team.
All right. Well, I'll take that since I don't. But that works for me. And they are at home. They are
the Commanders then.
They are at the Lions in the Lions house. So that is a good
in the Lions den. Come on. Why didn't you could have said it right there.
The pride is going to be there. So, Broncos at the Chiefs. The Chiefs favored by 12.5 points. Even if the Broncos were at home, I still wouldn't pick them. I think it might give me more pause, but there's no way the Broncos beat the Chiefs at the Chiefs.
I agree. I don't think the Broncos win this game. However, I do believe the Broncos keep it close because they have a lot of talent. They've just been poorly coached. Now that the coach is out of the way, I think there is the chance that all of a sudden, like, they play up to, maybe not up to what everybody expected, but a lot closer than they have been. So
Who's their
I think
interim?
the Broncos, I don't even.
I'm about
Better
to look it
better
up.
than Nathaniel Hackett. That's all I know.
Yeah.
But yeah, because like, okay, the Chiefs by 12.5. I bet the Broncos to cover that. That's an easy cover to me. I think the Broncos aren't going to lose by 13 to the Chiefs. I think they'll lose by 5, 6, 7. But they will still lose. I'm still going with the Chiefs because it is the Chiefs at home in December, especially. Mahomes is like immortal in December. But I have faith that the Broncos are going to show more life than they have all season.
Wait a minute. Jerry Rosburg is the interim head coach. Jerry Rosburg was the guy that was brought in to assist Nathaniel Hackett in game management earlier in the year.
So he hired his own replacements.
Yes.
Oof,
And Rosburg came in after Hackett was fired and fired 2 coaches. He fired the special teams coach and the offensive line coach. Immediately.
Oh, that sucks, man.
I didn't even know interim coaches could fire people. That's just...
Yeah, that's how much power that he gave him. He was just like, do my job for me. Well, now he really is.
It's crazy to me. All right, next up you've got the Dolphins at the Patriots. The Patriots favored by 2.5 points.
This one's tough.
Well,
obviously Tua
is
was
it Teddy
not
Bridgewater
playing.
starting?
It's Teddy Bridgewater, yeah.
Well,
I gotta go back and see, how did Bridgewater do when he covered for Tua earlier in the season? Because I do want to take the Dolphins. I do want. Let's see here. What game was that? I don't even remember. They lost to the Vikings.
Lost to the Vikings. He lost to the Bengals.
I mean, those are 2 tough teams. The Patriots are at home. I'm gonna go with the Patriots. I hate it, but I'm gonna lean on the side of Belichick in this one. Belichick at home, divisional opponent. Teddy Bridgewater starting. I do think that he'll scheme a defense to shut down the Dolphins.
All right. Well, since I need different ones, and I believe Teddy Bridgewater, who had almost 275 yards and 2 touchdowns against the Vikings, who are supposedly good, will be able to take on the Patriots. So I'm in with the Dolphins.
It was the 2 interceptions that turned me off when I looked at that stat. I was like, he threw 2 picks against the Vikings defense, and I don't know. Patriots do have a good defense. It's a tough one though. That was a toss-up. So yeah. Well, we shall see how that turns out.
I probably, if you had picked the Patriot or the Dolphins, I probably would have stayed with the Dolphins and not picked the Patriots. So this was the only way it would have been different.
Should I be a dick then and switch my pick? No, I'm kidding.
No, you mean you could?
I could, but that'd be so underhanded.
Colts at the Giants.
This one's pretty easy. Giants. I don't even know who's starting at quarterback for the Colts. Is it still Nick Foles?
Yeah, he started last week, so I don't think they've taken him out.
Like,
But
they
Nick
don't want to
Foles
sign
was
Josh Rosen either.
he was absolutely terrible last week. Foles
He
was. So
He was. Yeah,
Foles is old
that's,
now, though. Poor Foles.
He had the stretch run in the playoffs and won a Super Bowl. That's all his entire career boils down to that. Like,
It's true.
ridiculous. All right, Saints and Eagles. Eagles favored by 5.5. I don't think Jalen Hurts is going to play in this game, but I'm still picking the Eagles. Minshew played pretty well last week. I think he can do it against the Saints.
And I realize the Saints have been playing well lately, but I don't think that the Saints are playing well enough to beat them.
Yeah, same.
So, yeah. I'll take the Eagles.
Same.
Yeah, the Saints have beaten the Falcons and the Browns. That's the teams they've beaten recently. Lost to the Bucks and the 49ers. So, they only beat good teams or bad teams. Don't even play well against good teams. Panthers at the Buccaneers. Buccaneers are favored by 3.5.
Oh boy. It's just the Panthers have been playing so well.
Yeah.
Gosh, but I'm still gonna go with the Bucks.
Well, I feel like I have to go with the Panthers simply for the fact that they absolutely destroyed the Lions last week. And they've been playing up to every team they've played, and the Buccaneers aren't that far up, in my opinion.
No, they're not.
To
In
them,
fact,
so
it is very close, but something about Tom Brady, man. That dude just finds ways to win. It's frustrating.
Browns at Commanders. Commanders 1.5.
I can't believe the Commanders are favored in this game. Just first and foremost, the Browns money line is plus 110 right now on FanDuel, and that's just free money. I'm picking the Browns. I don't understand how Vegas thinks the Commanders are going to win this game. Yes, we're home, so I'm guessing that we're favored because we're home. We've got that little swing right there, but even then, you're talking about Nick Chubb, Kareem Hunt, Deshaun Watson, Amari Cooper, Myles Garrett, Jadeveon Clowney. I mean, the Browns have a lot of talent, and they're playing a team that is in a must-win situation. We don't win must-win games. Like, that's not what our franchise does. In my entire life, when it comes to must-win games, we just shit the bed. So I wholeheartedly believe the Browns win this game.
Another one for me. I'm taking the Commanders.
I appreciate it.
Yep.
Foolish, but I appreciate it.
The Browns in their last 4 games. 10 points, 3 points, 10 points, and then a 27-point game. They can't score. So
they will.
Can't pick the Browns.
I have no faith in my team to win this game. Like I don't know. Like I'm glad we went back to Wentz because I do believe Wentz is a better quarterback than Heineke. And there's a possibility that we can put up more points than we have been. But this is just one of those games where it's like, oh man, the pressure's on, and we collapse. Like it doesn't matter what players are on the team, what coaches. In 37 years of watching the Commanders, all we would do is collapse when the pressure's on. So I have no faith that we're going to win this game.
Understandable. All right, let's go with Jaguars at the Texans. Jaguars are favored by 3. This is the first team that's not a home team that we've talked about favored to win.
Crazy. The Texans did play better last week, but they did it against a bad team. The Jaguars are, in my opinion, not a bad team, so I'm definitely going with the Jaguars.
Yeah, the Texans beat the Titans last week.
Yeah.
I'm going Jaguars as well.
No.
Next up, you got the 49ers at the Raiders. Raiders who benched Derek Carr.
Yeah. Like, I'm surprised the 49ers are only favored by 9.5.
Yeah.
Like, Raiders are starting Jared Stidham. Come on.
Bless you. Jets are favored by 1.5 at the Seahawks.
This one's tough, man. Mike White's back at quarterback, so I'm excited for the Jets to get him back. But
Also starting for me in the Dynasty Championship.
Ooh, that's true. Yeah. I should go with the Seahawks though. The Seahawks, they need to get back on track. I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt that they find a way to win this game.
I feel like this is the week where I either catch back up or don't have a single chance next week.
I was gonna say, I mean, yeah, you're gonna have like 4 different so far. Like that's.
I'm gonna take the Jets.
I figured you would, but I like that. But I still, I feel like the Seahawks, they need this win so much. It's the opposite of the Commanders. We need to win, which means we're not going to. The Seahawks need to win, which to me means they find a way to win.
Mm-hmm. Vikings at the Packers. Packers favored by 3.
I want the Vikings to win this game so freaking bad.
I do too. The problem here is that the Vikings are already locked in for the playoffs and the Packers are not, which means the Packers will play harder and the Vikings just will not care. Plus they're playing at Lambeau, so...
Exactly. I'm going with the Packers, but God, I want them to lose so much. I just want everyone to stop talking about them like a playoff team. Like, I understand that they've charged back and they are, you know, like the 10 right now or some crap. Like, good for them. But do you know how much needs to fall into place for them to make the playoffs? Like, it's very unrealistic. I just want them to lose so everybody can just let it go.
Yeah, exactly.
That's my dream.
So that the off-season circus can begin.
Exactly.
Because it's going to be a circus in Green Bay. Get ready.
I'm curious to see what happens with Rodgers. It's gonna be fun.
Or he just retires out of nowhere and becomes a Jeopardy host. Rams at Chargers. Chargers favored by 6.5 in the battle for Los Angeles.
This is a tough one too because the Chargers have locked up a playoff spot, and I think they've actually locked up their seed too. I don't know if I think they can still move up to the 6th seed, or 5 seed, whichever one. Baker's been playing really well, but I gotta go with the Chargers. They just have so much talent, and it feels like they're finally gelling this year together.
I gotta go with the Chargers just because I need them to win. They have to win. They cannot allow the Rams to win.
There you go.
Not non-negotiable. Chargers have to win.
Are you going to use your bonus on the Chargers to will them to win?
I really feel like I should use my bonus on one that we have different, just to help myself a little bit more. So I'll go back and I'll look at the different ones.
All right, man. You could make a real swing tomorrow, depending on how these play out.
Steelers at the Ravens with the Ravens favored by 2.5.
This one's actually kind of closer to me.
No. This one's like, I don't know.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Tyler Huntley's played well. I'm going to go with the Ravens.
I also am going with the Ravens.
Yeah.
Simply because I feel like either one of these teams could win, and I don't want to be different on this one. That's literally the only reason I'm not picking.
Oh, I agree. I think this is a lot closer than the 2.5 line makes it seem to me. Mm-hmm. But yeah, the Ravens are just they're playing better. Huntley's playing well. I see it. I think the Ravens get the win. Yeah.
Lastly, you've got the Bills favored by 1.5 at the Bengals.
This one's tough, man. This one's real tough. Bengals are playing so well right now.
I've already spoiled this one earlier. Until they lose, I can't not pick the Bengals.
I know. Gosh. It's in Cincinnati too. Look at how the Bills. I mean, I know they played the Bears last week, but I want to look at how else they're doing. See, they're on a pretty good winning streak too. Gosh.
Yeah, they're on a 6-game winning streak.
It's so. I'm gonna go with the Bengals simply because they are fighting to try and still get the number one seed, and they're at home. I don't know. I'm just gonna go with the Bengals. But gosh, this one's close. If we didn't already,
This is the best game of the week, and finally a primetime game worth watching.
This is a hell of a Monday night
because we didn't talk about it, but that Christmas slate of games was terrible.
Yeah,
so bad.
Sucked.
So I mean, like for them to be like, this year we're gonna start having Christmas games, and then for the Christmas games to be that bad, I'm like, well,
you know what's funny? Look at like going into the season, the Packers, Dolphins. You know, Packers were expected to be better. Dolphins, you know, all that excitement, and that game, you know, besides Tua's concussion, wasn't terrible. Broncos, Rams, at the time, you had the Broncos with Wilson and all these, you know, hype, and then the Super Bowl champion Rams.
Mm-hmm.
But by the time we get there, you got nothing of that. And then, you know, Tom Brady versus Kyler Murray. It was like there was so much promise when they made the schedule, but by the time we got to Christmas Day, it was just like, I don't give a shit about any of these games.
Well, let's see. 1, 2, at least half these, 5 of these teams were playoff teams last year. So
yeah,
the Bucks, Cardinals, Packers, and the Rams were all playoff teams. I don't think the Dolphins were last year, and I'm pretty sure the Broncos weren't. So
no. I know it's they were trying to compete with the NBA but they just, you know, it didn't turn out that way.
Didn't work out that way for them. Yeah.
But yeah, I'm gonna go with the Bengals. If we didn't already have so many different this week, I'd probably go with the Bills to be different. But we already have like 4 different, so there's plenty of chance for you to make up some ground, or chance for me to solidify the win with a week left.
Yep. I'm looking at the games we have different. Patriots, Dolphins. That one's pretty close. I don't think I want to use it there. Bucks, Panthers. That might be one place. Browns, Commanders. And then what is the last one?
Seahawks,
Jets. Okay.
You love the Jets this year. I'm surprised you don't use it on that one.
Oh, they've been disappointing me a lot the last 6 weeks. I'm going to use it on the Dolphins.
All right, that's a good one. All the ones that we have different are very close games. Like yeah. I could go either way in any of them. But I do like when we have some different ones. So I won't change my picks to be a dick.
It'll make it more fun at the end.
Exactly.
All right. Well, let's see. What do you got? Let's get some fantasy sleepers in here for this fantasy championship. My picks were all people that are playing in my championship games. So,
I like that.
This is where we're at with our players that are
sure
sleepers.
You want to do that though? Because don't your picks usually not pan out that way?
Odds are they're not going to anyway. So
you might be jinxing your players. But yeah, my quarterback, I went with Deshaun Watson against the Commanders. He's the 20th ranked quarterback. I mentioned it earlier. I wholeheartedly believe that the Browns will score points and win this game. As the 20th ranked quarterback, I think he'll finish higher than that. So if you're desperate for a quarterback this week or just plain daily, that's my pick.
Well, I got Mike White on the Jets coming back from his injury. I don't know where he's ranked. I didn't look up the rankings on these guys, but I just know that they're all not in the top 10. So
yeah, I think Mike White was actually right after Deshaun Watson or something. He was like right around him. So
yeah, I feel like it's Mike White. He's played good in his 3 games he started before he got hurt, and so coming back in a game they have to win, they need to win against a team that they have a very good chance of beating in the Seahawks, because the Seahawks defense sucks. I think Mike White should have a good week.
Yeah, he should. He should. I agree. Running back, I went with Tyler Algier against the Cardinals. Tyler Algier's had a pretty good stretch of the last, I believe, 2 weeks or 3 weeks. He's played really well, and the Cardinals have nothing left to play for. They have nothing. pride, and at this point, I don't even know if they have that left. So I think he'll definitely again, he was also the 20th ranked. So I definitely see him finishing
Yep, I like
higher
that
than
one.
20.
I have Zach Moss of the Indianapolis Colts, who is projected to get, I think, 10 points this week. He's led the Colts the last 2 weeks with double-digit rushes for good amounts of yards, despite the fact that the team sucks. So
Yeah.
I think Zach Moss will definitely outdo himself from the last few weeks because he's got like 15 rushes to 20 rushes a week with only like 30 to 50 yards on those rushes. So if he actually, can break some of them off for the Colts against the Giants, whose defense isn't that great against the run, then they should be all right. So we'll see.
Yeah, I like that one. I mean, especially you're starting Nick Foles at quarterback, Indianapolis is, so lean on the running game, and yeah, I think he can break one against the Giants defense. Receivers, I went with Christian Watson, Green Bay against Minnesota. Green Bay is in a absolute must-win situation against a team that doesn't have much left to play for. Watson's the 18th ranked receiver for this week. I don't think he's going to have a huge game like he did when he first broke out a couple weeks ago and he was scoring like 30 some odd points a game, but I see him getting 18 to 20.
My pick for this week is someone that might not actually even play. And actually, I think it's a bad pick because I think he got moved from questionable to out.
That's not good.
Yeah, he's been ruled out, so it doesn't even really count. So I'll go with another one, and I don't know where he ranks, but Johan Dotson is another one.
Oh, boy, that's an interesting one because he, I believe, has a touchdown in his last 4 games, and with the switch to Wentz, it's interesting. I'm curious to see does Wentz use him? He did earlier in the year. I mean, Dotson, I think, started the season with like a touchdown in 2 or 3 straight games with Wentz. So he could keep it up and score again. I mean, they're going to have to throw. So they're definitely going to be throwing the ball.
Well, the problem for me is that it's a decision. The decision comes down to putting Curtis Samuel in or Dotson.
Oh, you're just all about the Commanders receivers.
There was nothing to pick up. I picked up Debo, but then he got ruled out, so then I had to put in Dotson or Samuel. So,
yeah, I would definitely go with Dotson over Samuel. Samuel's like the gadgety run out the backfield type thing, but when it comes to the passing game, Dotson and McLaurin are their top 2 targets. Samuel catch a couple passes, but touchdown wise, Dotson has the better chance of getting a touchdown.
Yeah, the only other 2 I have. And Chase Claypool's questionable, so he might not even play.
I would start him anyways.
Yeah, exactly. And then the other one is Chris Moore from the Texans. So it's like, 2 Commanders, a Texan, or a Bear. Take your pick in the championship.
Somebody that doesn't have a quarterback, somebody that doesn't get thrown to, or 2 Commanders receivers. So
I mean, my receiver core in the championship's already a mixed bag. DJ Moore from Carolina.
He's been all right.
Who's being thrown to by
Sam
Darnold.
But
Johan
he's
Dotson.
had a couple good games with Darnold the last couple of weeks. So, I mean, DJ Moore might lead you to a championship, another strong game.
And then the one that's been good all year, Tyreek Hill. So hopefully Teddy Bridgewater can get him the ball.
God, yeah, you're in bad shape, man.
That's what I'm saying. Every freaking one.
Is that one of the dynasty leagues, or is that the league where you had Conklin go off against you?
That's the one with Conklin.
That sucks.
Not
so
Conklin.
Not only are you, Schultz. Yeah. Dalton Schultz. Yeah. So you are already in the hole, and your receivers are all just.
Well, the Dallas kicker got me 10 points, which is a pretty decent kicker number.
Bad.
So, whatever.
Not too shabby. Well, I said Conklin because I was reading ahead. My tight end pick is Tyler Conklin. Mike White's back. That offense should be scoring some points. He's the 14th ranked tight end. Tight end is just a shithole anyways, so I might as well throw him in. I think he gets a couple catches from White.
And that makes sense. I like Conklin. White and Conklin have from what I remember, a pretty decent connection.
Relationship.
Yeah, I've got Juwan Johnson, the tight end from the Saints, up against the Eagles. That's another one of the tight ends I'm playing. So yeah, there we go.
Tight end is a tough position, man. That's why I'm getting rid of it next year in all my leagues.
Yeah, buy tight ends. You are now
I'm serious. I'm gonna make it a flex position. Yeah. Somebody wants to draft Travis Kelce and play him, they can, but I'm not going to be forced into drafting, some jabroni in the 12th round and getting 5 points out of him.
Were there even 12 fantasy relevant tight ends a week? Everybody we could have picked all season was a fantasy sleeper.
If I go look right now and look at the 12th tight end, and I'm going to do it because it's going to make me laugh, I guarantee they are 80 points behind Travis Kelce. So the number one tight end, Travis Kelce, has 305 points in this ESPN league. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. The 12th tight end, David Njoku, has 126. 170 points behind Travis Kelce. Literally 10 points a week. That's stupid. That's just... I mean, Kelsey's already 100 points ahead of the next closest tight end, which is TJ Hawkinson, who's number 2.
Who had a 40-point game last week, so before last week.
He was even farther behind him.
Yeah.
It's just a dumb position. There's no point in forcing, literally, Travis Kelce's projected 17, and then you've got Juwan Johnson projected 8, less than half.
The good news is, I can drop the crappy backup I have in the dynasty and keep Mark Andrews.
Yeah, there you go. And that's the point. You can still start Mark Andrews in that flex position, but people won't be obligated to start a tight end. That's the way I'm doing things. But all right, well, that was week 17 preview. That's our penultimate podcast of the season, they call it. Next week is our wait, is that the right term? What's the final one then?
I don't know.
It's penultimate, and then second to last is penultimate, and then I forget what the term is for
finale.
Yeah, but there's a fancy term for it. I'm just completely blanking on right now. So whatever.
You got me.
But yeah, that'll be our last one of the regular season. But of course, we'll still do playoff podcasts, and then once the playoffs and Super Bowl are over, we'll figure out what we're gonna do for the off season. My recommendation's a monthly version where we just recap everything.
News and fun little tidbits.
We can talk about the combine and then free agency and pro days and stuff, but we don't have to do it each week.
Yeah. Force ourselves to talk about it every week.
Yeah.
Works for me.
A little overkill. So.
All right.
Cool, buddy.
Well, thanks everybody for coming out and listening to the live stream, for everybody listening to the audio version of the podcast, and for those of you watching over on YouTube, we appreciate you and thank you for that. Hope you guys enjoy your games and your teams win this weekend. Give you that playoff scenario you want, unless you're a Green Bay Packers fan. Sorry, but yeah. So
apologize to those animals.
Yeah. All right, everybody. Thanks for listening. This was episode 19. We'll be back next week for episode 20, and until then, we will see you in week 17.
Yes, sir. Bye, everybody.
Later.